construction going on across the 25 local government of Niger State cannot be left out without talking about the Ministry of Land and Survey. Oh yes, a lot of people will be wondering, what has land and survey got to do with road construction, which is meant for the Ministry of Works? Master plan is one of them. The Ministry of Land and Survey is the ministry that has to do with master planning of every city in the 25 local government, including the state's capital. And today we will diving into disconsent issues that has to do with land issues, community land dispute between state government and communities, or compensation of road networks ongoing in the state capital and across 25 local government of Niger State. Join us as we meet with the Honorable Commissioner for Land and Survey in person of Barrister Maurice Bello Magaji.
All right, it's nice to be with you, Honorable Barrister Maurice Bello Magaji, the Honorable Commissioner for Land and Survey. Welcome to Lina TV today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, so quickly today, we would like to know a brief of who you are. We all know Barrister Maurice Bello, we've been hearing, but we don't, many people or many Nigerites would say they don't know a brief of who you are and your antecedents in Niger State. So, can you give us a brief?
All right. Thank you very much. Just as you rightly called, mentioned my name. My name is Maurice Bello Magaji. I'm a lawyer by training, and I was born sometime 13th of January 1971 here in Mina, specifically Abai Close. And of course, I started my primary education in Kwantogora, Nobamasi Primary School, my first year in school, primary 1 and 2. And of course, continued and finished up at Zarumai Model School, then was primary school before I proceeded to Federal Government College, Mina. Thereafter, I moved on to Ahmadu Bello University, the very prestigious Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, where I studied law, LLB, with honors. And of course, I equally proceeded to Nigerian Law School, where I was called to Nigerian Bar. Shortly after that, I served in Kano, Ministry of Justice. And of course, I started off, my working career as a private practitioner with J.G. Taide & Co., Senior Advocate of Nigeria. And then, of course, after that, I got an opportunity to work at the National Assembly, House of Representatives precisely. And that was another aspect of law, which is have to do with due diligence, drafting, and so on and so forth. I was there between 2007 to 11. And then, of course, I equally came to private practice, because when I established Maurice Magaji & Co. as solicitors, arbitrators, legal practitioners, and consultants. So, of course, I ran my office for a period of time. And, of course, equally, I had a stint with a lot of corporate organizations. I worked with Petrotrans companies and engineering company in the oil and gas sector, wherein I was head of compliance. And of course, that exposed me to another aspect, of course, of life again, which is engineering in the oil and gas industry, particularly having to do with what we call, more like fabrication, but of course, those are all aspects of engineering, working on metering station, establishing one for Obajana, Dongote plant over there. So I was there for upward of about 3 years. And then, of course, equally worked again with the Senate again. This time around, it's the distinguished Senator Abdullahi Gumel. I was his counsel at the Senate. And then, he's presently now with the special advisor to Mr. President on Senate Affairs. So I've gone that far, with my working career too. And of course, I've been a sports administrator as well. Long ago, I was amongst the first privileged under 17 to play baseball for Nigeria.
Mm.
So that gave me that platform to be able to do a lot of travel as a sport person, playing baseball for the country, to different countries, America, Canada, and different parts of the world. And of course, after that, I equally was elected into Nigerian Baseball and Softball Association as Assistant General Secretary and Legal Advisor. I served for upward of 11 years, on the board until last year when election,
Was held.
was held. And then, of course, and also I'm a sports enthusiast as well, a sports administrator, and of course, my destiny into politics, started way back 2003, of course, up to 2004, up to 2005, wherein I participated, of course, in, as a think tank to a lot of politicians that time, looking at doing a needs assessment for those who would want to run for office, and of course to be able to see how we could help support them at the background. So I did that effectively with a couple of friends, and of course that led me into showing interest to actually contest. At that time, I was with the ANPP, All Nigeria People's Party, the defunct before the merger with APC. I was then at the point the state legal advisor and worked effectively that time with our candidate, David Umaru, for his election. So, and of course, that was in 2011. As I said, I ran for the office of the State Assembly. That was not to be, but of course, I continued. Went back to practice, and of course, in 2019, I tried again. But that wasn't to be as well until 2023 when the idea, for my friend and brother, His Excellency, Muhammad Umaru, the former governor, came, and then of course we started off, with him. Came up as a think tank, friends and people who grew up together to be able to mold the idea, and of course, and we pushed on and on and on until we got victory. So of course played a critical role there because I was at that time the cause of the election, the coordinator of the economic think tank that produced the blueprint, which by the grace of God we are implementing today in Niger State across all the sectors. Of course, this is visible for everybody to see. So, and of course, before election, I held the position of the director of ICT. So I manage the situation room in terms of making sure that whatever it is that was happening in all the polling booths, were there to be able to respond to them. We get all our results from our agents, and then be able to collect, at our own end, vis-a-vis what, of course, the party was doing. But this was on our own arrangement, had brought in our situation room. And then, equally, I served too as the director legal for our distinguished senator, 313, in his campaign organization. So these are some of the things. Of course, over time, we participated quite a lot in providing knowledge and, of course, making sure that things go right. A case in time, or one very, very critical one is, if you remember, we had a community bank in Searching Power. Yes, I served as the secretary that established that community bank. Well, we had to liaise them with the central bank on establishing, because that was a policy of government that time, that every local government should establish a community bank to help, transactions, financial transactions in various local government areas. So quite a lot.
Yeah, this is a huge profile, and thank God it's a brief one. If not, we would have gone long.
Yes.
So let's talk about, so far as a commissioner for the past 2 years and coming, what has been your office achievements? We know land and surveying is one new part of life you've also verged into. knowing well you're a lawyer by profession, you dive into engineering by accident, and now into politics by accidental, and then accidentally again, you're into land and survey. Though, hand in hand, we would say some aspect of law, there is land and survey practitioning going in as the tally. Would you say are your major achievements so far and the ones yet to come?
Thank you very much. Interestingly, land is about processes. Land is about the law, the legal framework that helps that aspect of or that sector land is law,
Hmm.
because we are talking of land management,
Yeah.
and you need rules to be able to guide you.
Hmm.
So who best to have there if not a lawyer who can indeed be able to interpret these laws, make sure that of course we do not have people who manipulate the process.
Hmm.
Of course, we follow the due process in terms of making sure whatever it is that is stated,
Hmm.
because it's the laws in Nigeria that guides us is the Land Use Act,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Which is embedded in the ground norm, being the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999, as amended. So, Land Use Act is part of it. So, indeed, coming here was like coming home, because I know it's all about making sure that there are rules for for application, there are rules for consent, there are rules for mortgages, there are rules for revocation, and so on and so forth. They are all clear, even for acquisition, what you are meant to do. And of course, you know that the only way government can actually even develop, our society and provide amenities, one way or the other, they need to pass through processes which may touch people's property one way or the other. But of course, if you have somebody, as I am, who would be able to give a guide and make sure that we follow it so that we are not found wanting in any way, because the knowledge, of course, is there. So part of the achievement have been one, being able to reorganize the system. And then be able to put back that public confidence in the system. I came at a time whereby, in fact, when I was, appointed and posted here, people were like, "You're going to the Lions Den." People were like, "Oh, nothing happens there." Oh, and so on and so forth. And I said, perhaps, my predecessors would have tried their best. But of course, everybody comes to add value. But I will be adding value to whatever it is. And I've came here with an open mind to make sure that one, people repose the confidence back in the system of land administration. That I've been able to do. Secondly, to be able to make sure that timeously, whenever you apply for any land or any form of transaction within our sector, you are able to transparently be able to pay the necessary fees and be able to receive whatever document you have applied for within a reasonable time. Thirdly, a situation whereby we should be able to do what we call value capture of our state assets, which we are already doing right now. And thankfully, as part of the success story, is that just recently, last year, His Excellency had approved and, of course, awarded a contract for the upscaling and revamping of the Niger State Geographical Information System, because the world is going digital. We didn't start from ground zero, but of course, over time, things have improved. New softwares have come to automate our processes, to be able to know more of our assets and take charge of our land assets. And that's what I mean by being able to provide the value capture, value capture of all our assets in the state, knowing their various locations precisely, knowing through the coordinates, and of course, there's what we call the KMZ maps conversion, such that you can actually see real time what is happening. So, as part of that achievement, again, we've had improvement in signing of COO. A lot of people were, for a period of time, during the transition, of course, nothing was happening as much. But of course, we have increased the number of those, because of those who apply for COO usually would be those who indeed want to properly secure and add, value to their assets. Then secondly, there are those who again will be reaching out to financial outfits or banks, to be able to raise debt, for them to run their businesses. And of course, you realize that most times what most of the banks require is a valid title, which is a certificate of occupancy. So the project, which I said, which is of course the brainchild of His Excellency, is going to do quite a lot. It's going to map the entire state right now. You realize that there are states that they don't, that you find it difficult to operate things like Uber, public transport system and so on, because you do not have accurate locations. Now, this is what it will bring. So it's going to open that opportunity, or it's going to, the value chain is to the extent that young people, can actually begin to run the business of Uber or Bolt here, because we are mapping the place, the coordinates will be there for everybody. And of course, if you're locating somewhere, and it will be easier for you to say, I'm going to X place, and be able to put in my address, and it will take me there. And then, of course, proper house numbering will be done, so that addressing, you can know who is where at what given point in time. And then the project again, which is part of the achievement, going forward, will be our ability to know the number of hospitals that we have in Niger State, and their locations and their states, right? You'll be able to know the number of primary schools, their locations and their state, how they look like right now from the dashboard. So the governor and the ministry here can easily decide that this is the number of hospitals that we have, whether there is need to add more, or whether that is okay for us to begin to look in another direction. So for the purpose of planning, if you don't have statistics, data, it is difficult for you to be able to appropriate funds to be able to support whichever sector, right? So these are some of the things that we are bringing to the table, right? And again, we are expanding it. Now we are opening up a Suleja office of Niger right now. It has never happened, because we are organizing the entire corridor, working on the entire master plan of, what we call the Greater Suleja, that axis. If you go to Lagos State, you see what's happening within the corridor between Lagos and Ogun State. We are even going to do something much, much better than that, because that may have, metamorphosized on its own. But here we are doing a deliberate effort to make sure that we have what we call the specific land use, designated land use for light industrial, for industrial, corporate, organizations, markets, and so on and so forth. So that whatever it is you situate in a particular location should be what it is designed for and approved, right? And then we'll be able to know the requisite amount of fee to charge. Then part of what is coming up again is the land use charge. You realize that yes, we have increased what we call the ground rent. When my inception in office between 2023 to August, 2023 August to 2023, August 2024, there was an astronomical increase to almost 500 million in terms of revenue that I was able to accrue in 1 year in office.
Wow.
So that's part of ground, but we have the potential to do more. Because land use charge, what we call ground rent, it's only paid by those who have certificate of occupancy. However, with the law of the revenue harmonization law, which has been, of course, enforced since last year, we are going to make sure that we will make the land use charge operational first quarter of this year. That is, each of the houses or property, whether developed or not, will be valued, and then people will be made to pay for the value of that. Why? Because government needs money to be able to provide more amenities. So that token will be paid. So whether you have certificate of occupancy or not, you'll be required to pay land use charge. Right?
Because
that is what is
the
obtainable.
land is not even yours. So
Thank you.
by not having those CFOs, the
CFO,
land is
of
not
course, it was a
yours.
way of evading
Evading the
payment,
payments. Yes,
right?
yes,
But
yes.
of course, a road may pass through your house.
Definitely.
Government has put in
Put
infrastructure,
infrastructures,
like
yes.
what is happening right now.
Yeah.
Now, there is an abysmal number of the CFOs we have in Niger State as compared to the number of houses, as compared to the number of even undeveloped property.
Yeah.
So it's very, very important so that we have more people in the net of those, and then we have more money to be able to do what? Provide amenities for people.
Yeah.
And the more the volume, it will come cheaper for everybody. So if we don't do that, it's going to be very difficult. You begin to wonder, why is Abuja developing? Why is Lagos developing? Those things are part of revenue that should come. But of course, it is coming with a human face.
Yeah,
Because for residential, will be different. Valuation will be done. If it is for a hotel, if it is for a filling station, of course, then there are houses, of course, or locations that will be exempted, like sacred places, like mosques, small churches, emirs, palaces, and so on.
Graveyards.
Graveyards, of course, you won't be talking of paying there.
Yeah.
So we're looking at that.
I wanted to ask keenly.
Yes, please.
For every minister out there, Minister of Works, that's Babaji, the former governor of Lagos, the former governor of Rivers, who is the present minister of FCT. They've been rugged when it comes to land and survey, land issues, just like you stated, ground rent and the likes of them. I don't know, would you be that rugged? Most especially, the most trending one is the minister of FCT now, Barrister Emson Wike, who has turned FCT into a home of without CFO, without ground rent, you will not acquire. Would you be that rugged in Niger State? Because we noticed that Niger State, if it is not someone who has a rigid hand, they would not want to support or want to allow redevelopment. We've seen that in previous governments, we've seen that in the governments before now, and even the governments back of Talba and Kure. Even in the military era, there were some times then we were young children. There were some times where development would want to grow in our community. You see community elders, you to come out and say, no, don't destroy this place, don't do this, it's our homeland, it's our ancients, our great grandfathers, this, that. How do you intend to manage those? Though we are supposed to discuss this on the disadvantages, but you can chip in. How do you intend to manage this?
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, once there is no information, you are bound to face what? Resistance.
Yeah.
So, of course, as Democrats and as people who have come up with policies, it's only important that we do what we call engagement, community engagement. We will engage the public as to the advantage, right? Because, of course, we want election and popular will of the people that we are going to develop Niger State. But how else can you develop without, of course, it's like somebody who has an ailment and it requires surgery. Of course, you'll go through the initial pain or discomfort, but at the end of the day, you'll be better off for it. So that has to happen. And again, because if there hasn't been that engagement, you have resistance, right? And I give an example every day. Look at the road that you pass between Chanchaga to, let's say, Tudunfulan. People owned lands there. They gave it up, right? At that time, there was no issue of compensation. And people passed, they sacrificed that. Look at the markets today, the old central market here. It was somebody's house, but people would come there to come and transact. So sometimes sacrifices need to be made for the betterment of our society, right? There must be that level of discomfort. And that's why this will come with a lot of, engagement with the community, with elders, with leaders of thought, the traditional institutions, so that we'll talk to our people. We are part of the community. We are not strangers. We are all part of the community. We are all part of the state. And of course, it's part of what we agreed in the course of our campaign in our oath of office too, that we want to develop the entire state. And of course, there is no way you can bring about infrastructure development without some level of discomfort, and that's why we're even going further, and we're having very soon an engagement with the traditional institution too. There are certain places that would have wanted to take roads to, But because the place was not properly planned, people built anyhow, the cost of even paying compensation made us to take the route where we pay less compensation,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
But if you work with us as a ministry, and which is going to be part of our policy, it may be the community land. Nobody's taking away your land from you, but work with us to help you plan it professionally so that you have enough alignment, right? So that drainages can be on both sides whenever government wants to come and build. And indeed, what would even happen is that at the end of the day, if the place is properly planned, the value add, you cannot quantify it. Go to Mina right now. Go to certain places that roads are being opened right now. How much would you have bought a plot of land if you haven't got to calculate it per square meter? But if government is providing road, what is government getting in return for us to continue? So we are giving our bit, citizens will give a bit, government will give a whole lot.
Exactly.
But cooperation goes a long way. And of course, when we talk of discomfort, government is not unmindful of the fact that we try as much as possible to mitigate whatever difficulty or inconveniences that our citizens would face.
All right.
Now, knowing the fact that it is important that land and survey is very vital in the development of Niger State, with the 30 years plan and the Honorable Governor of Niger State, Farmer Umar Muhammad Bago, is bringing into place. Now know that landowners, landlords cannot acquire land without CFOs, ground rent. And if you have CFO, automatically your building must last in the space of 2 years for it to be completed. Or else the CFO, the ground rent, will be revoked from you and be issued to another person. Do you want your land to be revoked? If no, do the needful. In the space of 2 years, complete your buildings. So we'll meet again next week for another exciting moment with the program Chat with RMG. My name has been Rhythm Musago. Do have a pleasant week ahead of you and stay out of trouble. Bye.